Hello everyone. Lovely to be with you on this evening. You can see how the light is changing. You see it's like it's dark outside. That's a curtain against the dark window. It seems like it's come so quickly. Recently, there was sunlight coming in through the window. So we're moving towards the autumn equinox in a couple of weeks' time, or less than 2 weeks' time. It's good to be with you. Maybe let's just, as we wait for people to arrive, it always takes a few minutes for people to gather, which is why I love the image of the sacred grove with gradually people coming from every direction from all over the world. Maybe you'd like to say hello, say where you're from, and say how you're feeling today. Just what's just your predominant state of mind or of heart. It's a way of bringing ourselves into connection together, and it gives time for people to arrive as well. And it's lovely to see people from New Zealand, Donegal, Pender Island, Kent, Netherlands, Northumberland, Northamptonshire, calm and relaxed. I was trying to work out what NFL stands for. Afterglow related to NFL. I don't know what NFL is. I actually have a cup of tea, so I'm feeling good. After some Wing Chun training. Hello from Sweden. Full as I ate too much. I know that feeling so well. Julia isn't feeling that way. She's running on empty. We need to do some swaps here. Maybe we can develop some sort of game where we swap how we're feeling across the ether, across the internet. National Football League, Matthew, thank you. Great. Newfoundland, says Natalie. Well, maybe yes. North of Germany. Okay, just finishing work on a COVID hotline. Wow. Okay. Trying to get back to my inner peace. Happy and confused. Hello from Brighton, just down the road, feeling tired. Well, great to see everyone. Lovely to see everyone. Gosh, so much has happened this week. There are various sort of things that I'd like to share with you, really, and I'm going to try and weave them together because it was this morning I kind of got a sense of what to talk about, and it was because I was reading this quotation. I'll read it. I'll come back to it later, but I'll just start off with this, I think, because, of course, Queen Elizabeth died recently, and the airwaves are full of the commentary on it, and it's a significant time, as everybody is saying, as so many people are saying. For many of us, for most of us, she's the only queen we've known. If she's been our queen, so for me, she was crowned on the day I was born. Not the day, I mean the year I was born. Yeah. And it's been poignant for me because my mother looked slightly like her. She's like everybody says, she's our granny, so she's and my mother looked like her. And when she was a young woman traveling in Switzerland once, they thought she was the queen traveling incognito because she looked similar when she was young. And those old recordings from the 1950s, everybody speaks in a funny voice. I don't know what happened to people's voices, but when you listen to those recordings from the old days, everybody is speaking in this strange sort of way. And I have recordings of my mother speaking from that time, and she's speaking like that as well. I wish I could imitate it, but I don't think I better. As Maggie says, Liz was queen for my entire life. Yeah. So let's approach this subject in another way. Here's the quote that I read this morning. It's from Tolkien, and it was talking about the film series that's out at the moment. And Tolkien said, "Fantasy is escapist, and that is its glory. If we value the freedom of mind and soul, if we're partisans of liberty, then it's our plain duty to escape and to take as many people with us as we can." It's our plain duty to escape and to take as many people with us as we can. So I was thinking about what's happening, and you may have seen these too. There've been mainly positive, emotional, effusive remarks about the Queen, but every so often you'll hear on the radio, on the television, somebody who's sort of saying, "What on earth is going on? This is so medieval. This is like," there was a guy on TV tonight saying, "This is like something out of a sort of fantasy film or sort of medieval play or something, men in tights and blowing trumpets. And this is so out of keeping with our modern times. It's preposterous," but everybody seems in a kind of trance. Well, I think Jeanette Winterson, the author, really cracks it here, because she has written a piece, again in The Guardian. I'll give the links to these pieces in my blog post on this. And let me just read you a little bit of this. Jeanette Winterson says, "Like the two great queens before her, Victoria and Elizabeth I, Elizabeth II transcended her restricted coordinates. There she was, an upper-class woman with a silly accent who loved horses and dogs, never went to school or had a job, yet found herself representing her country for 70 years. She was an icon, and it doesn't matter how much of that was projection. That's the point and purpose of an icon. It's a representative symbol, and its symbolic value is far greater and more complex than any intrinsic value." This is, I think, the thing to really understand, because it kind of solves this conundrum of whether it's appropriate or not. The symbolic value of an icon is far greater and more complex than any intrinsic value. That's why there is little to be gained from poring over what the Queen was or wasn't in her own right. Was she progressive? Was she racist? Was she a good mother? What were her views on Brexit? Why didn't she help Diana? We could go on forever, and people do. But what do we learn? In my view, nothing. Her private self was irrelevant to an understanding of her symbolism. The continuity that Elizabeth II brought to this country was more than that of a long life spanning so much change. She was the embodiment of our connection with history as a lived and living past, a rope slung across time. Time, though, is only superficially linear. History repeats itself, perhaps because we fail to reimagine ourselves. What is the balance between tradition and innovation? Is custom superstition? Is custom just the way we have always done things because we fear doing things differently? The wrecking ball of revolution, big or small, smashes what we have loved, as well as clearing the way for something new. New doesn't always mean better, as the exhausting disruption and acceleration of our own times makes clear. And yet nations and their people must reimagine themselves. Isn't this great stuff? She goes on to say, it's a longer article, and I've just extracted a few paragraphs here. She was dismayed to become a queen so young. But as she said in a remarkable speech in 1947, when she turned 21, can you imagine what we were like when we were 21? "My whole life, whether it be short or long, will be devoted to your service." Did it make a difference, this not wanting to be queen? We are used to witnessing the unedifying scrambles of greasy pole politics, where ambition is the name of the game and public service is a series of empty words. We're used to entitlement too, to those whose background and privilege caused them to believe in their own right to rule. The British Empire whitewashed its land grabs and brutality, its missionary coercion and robber baron raids as the white man's burden and service. Victoria's reign saw this notion of service reach cult levels of self-justification. The civil service, the foreign service, military service, missionary service, the ubiquity of domestic service, all wrapped up in a word that implied selflessness and self-sacrifice, a word that reached its apogee in the slaughterhouse of the First World War and never recovered its shine. Elizabeth II, though, believed in service as a religious and moral imperative. It's duty, yes, but duty with humility. I will miss the Queen. As an adopted person, she has been the one and only stable female in my life. Her portrait hung over our coal fire above the brass flying ducks. When Mrs. Winterson, her mother, was at her most volatile, taking my dad's service, that's the word again, there's that word again, revolver out of the duster and fiddling with the bullets embedded in a tin of pledge. That sounds scary, doesn't it? I looked to the Queen for help. She was better than Jesus because she was alive. Our family stood for the national anthem. We listened to the Queen's speech standing up, and I do still, on the radio on Christmas Day. Wow, I think that's a fabulous piece. You know, when I was a small boy at my grandparents' house in Hassocks in East Sussex, when the Queen's speech came on, my grandmother and grandfather would stand up. My father refused. He was a rebel and he refused to stand up. But my grandparents used to stand up and listen to the speech. And occasionally, to tease the kids here, I've done that just to tease them. Bridgetara says, yes, that was a lovely speech. It's really interesting, but I think this thing of okay, so if we take on board the idea that the Queen was an icon, that a lot of she's received a lot of our projections because she was very wise and canny. She didn't give much away, so we were able to project, like the psychoanalyst who's a blank screen. We were able to project a lot of thoughts and a lot of our feelings onto this blank screen of this kind of archetypal grandmotherly figure, female figure. So at one level, you could say, well, this is fantasy, like these realists who are talking on the radio and television say this is all nonsense, this is fantasy. But then how do we deal with Tolkien's remark? Fantasy is escapist and that is its glory. If we value the freedom of mind and soul, if we're partisans of liberty, then it's our plain duty to escape and to take as many people with us as we can. Well, here's the thing, here's my take on it, see what you think. There's one thing in fantasy and escapism as a way of evading our responsibility, evading engaging in our lives, evading really making a difference in the world and being in relationship with other people and in relationship with the physical reality we see around you. That's one thing. But what I think is being suggested here is something else, which is fantasy as the power to enchant. And what we're talking about, at least I would be talking about in terms of the plain duty to escape, is to escape from the overly rational, reductionist, materialist view of the world, which I believe is erroneous. I believe in the idealistic philosophy which sees the world and ourselves as souls living in an enchanted, awe-inspiring world that is a manifestation of the divine. And yes, there's suffering. Yes, there's difficulty. Yes, there's political injustice and all sorts of wrongs that need to be righted. But we can escape the narrow confines and restrictions of the materialist worldview that reduces everything to a level of absurdity. And fantasy then becomes something noble. And this is why people will say, I remember Dave the Bard talking about how he first came across Druidry in the Order. He first got interested in spiritual things and being interested in ceremonial magic. And then he stumbled upon the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. And he recounts how he was so delighted to find people actually engaging in magic in this present day. So I want to show you a few photographs now of something that we did in June in the magical town of Glastonbury. Let's see if I can do it. Yes, I'm going to show you a few pictures. Some of you were there, about 480 of you were there. But we did a ceremony where Ema was confirmed, her position as chosen chief of the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids was confirmed in this ceremony, because the first ceremony had to take place online because of COVID. Now we were able to do it in practice. And there she is with Stephanie over on one side, Adrian taking the place of Dave the Bard, who had COVID at the time, who's our Pendragon, and myself as the previous chief behind her with our wands, chanting the Arwen, asking for her to be inspired, to be a good leader, to be in service. And you can see that there's this medallion that she's wearing. And that was a medallion that we had made for her, which I will show you. Oh, maybe I have to, okay, hang on. I have to hide. How do I hide this one? How do I, hang on a minute. Okay. It seems to have gone, this one. So I can't hide it. Oh dear, where's this gone? Here we are. Here we are. Hide. There we go. Now let me show you. Yes, you were looking at the medallion. This is the medallion that was specially made for Ema. Oh, now you can't see it. I wonder if I can move it up to here. Oh, I can't. I'm sorry. I've messed this up. The usual technology business. Why can't I? Let me just try. I'll have one more go, and then we'll keep going. Show. No. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, here's you might see the medallion. You can on her. This is after the ceremony when Ema was casting a circle on Glastonbury tour. Isn't that fantastic? That epitomizes, I think, panache. That's my sense of what you might call panache. And I'm going to just add this. Okay. And now I'm going to take it away if I can. Here we go. Back we go. Okay. So why am I showing you this? Because here's something that is as strange as the sort of ceremonial stuff that we're seeing on the television now that's happening, that some people are calling medieval. Here you can see the beautiful piece of jewelry that we had made for the chosen chief. And this week, I've been preparing an exhibit. We had a replica made. Like the crown jewels, it's made with less precious metals, and it's going to be in on display at the Museum of Magic and Witchcraft in Boscastle soon, alongside photographs of the handing over of the medallion. I'll just show it to you in the old-fashioned way. Here's what I did. I handed it over to and put it on Ema there, you see. So anyway, Why am I saying this? Because we're doing the same sort of thing, fantastical ceremonies, but there's a meaning in them. They're not just empty, just as the ceremonial that's occurring at the moment in Scotland and in the UK or around the United Kingdom. There's a meaning behind it. It's symbolic. And that's its power. And if Tolkien thought that it was our duty to help people escape, you could interpret that as an injunction or as an invitation, an exhortation for us to help other people climb out of the consensus reality of limitation towards a reality that is enchanted, that is magical, that is fantastical, if you like, but through its fantastic nature is able to connect us with a sense of magic and mystery. When I look at this photograph of Ema casting the circle, it fills me with joy, and I find it easier to imagine a circle of golden and silver light traveling around us on the tour on that June day. So, that's what I wanted to say. I'm going to go back to the comments feed, and I'll put up the quotes from Jeanette Winterson, or the link to Jeanette Winterson's article. I'll put up the quote for Tolkien and the article that it comes from. I'll put up some of these pictures of Ema and the panache of Ema's circle casting, and I'll just finish talking about the Queen with a little life hack that somebody quoted from her, which is somebody said, this being the Queen must weigh heavily on your shoulders. And she said, well, I seem to have the knack of switching off, as she used to say. My dad used to say off as well, switching off. I think I have that knack too, and it's, I think, a positive example of the use of denial and compartmentalization. Like all our defenses and psychological mechanisms, they can be harmful and can create problems, but they've arisen for a reason. They have a survival function, if you like. And one of the values of being able to switch off is that you're not overwhelmed with stress. And that's one of the great reasons for learning meditation and for following a spiritual path as well. Because the spiritual path is essentially saying, hey, look, whatever stress you're going through, whatever difficulties, life is actually more extraordinary and strange than you can ever imagine. And we understand, whoever's saying this, we understand that it may be really painful and difficult for you, what you're going through. But actually, there are other dimensions, other realities, other beings that we can't even sense, who are sending us healing, sending us love, who are upholding us and lifting us up. And we will get through this. And that's the value of a spiritual path. That's the value of learning meditation. And then, over time, you get used to being able to just, whatever technique you use, for me, it's linked to a kind of embodied sense of spirituality, where I just literally release the tension in all my muscles as I go through my body. I switch off, I let go. So if I'm at a very busy meeting and I meet lots of people, or there's some drama going on and conflicts and difficulties and so on, I can just let it go, have a good night's rest, and then come to it refreshed in the morning. And finally, of course, as a number of you are mentioning, let's not forget that Queen Elizabeth was, as a young queen, inducted into the Welsh Gorsedd. And I believe she was crowned as an ovate and a bard. And what I'll do as well, I've made a note on my thing. On my blog, I'll put the wonderful old news clip of her being initiated into the Druid order on the blog post for this. I'm just seeing. Yes, gosh, there's so many interesting thoughts. Yes. Speaking of helping others relax, remember, this is a nice, speaking of helping others relax, remember to like the stream. We've had about 20 more viewers on YouTube the past 2 weeks. More likes means the algorithm shares us around more. I have noticed that more viewers have been piling in, which is interesting. So maybe that's why, because people are liking the channel. Gunter says, just as a bard. Okay, thank you, Gunter. And let's have a look. Some nice opens the. I had the Grail open in front of me, implying that the written fantasies are very magical with the spark. Fantastic. Life is magic. Ceremony is just a way to enhance it and allow us to live a happier life. Fantasy is stimulating to the brain. Life would be boring without fantasy. Thank you. Merlin Koloff. It's much like walking a healer's path. We have to make boundaries. We have to take spiritual breaks and switch off occasionally. I'm always Merlin, but I'm not always the healer if spirit advises against it. Oh, Shelby, the relaxing methods from your Art of Living Well are great. Good old Shelby. That's the sort of online courses I do in sophrology and so on. Okay, now it's time for us to relax. So let me just take Shelby's comment off, and then let's switch off to allow, because the thing is, when you're switching off, the secret is you're really switching on. So let's switch off and switch on instead to a different level of consciousness. So just relaxing, and you might like to just lower your gaze or close your eyes to make it easier to concentrate, or you can keep watching, whatever you like. But just taking a deep breath in, holding, and then letting a deep breath out. One more time in your own time. And let's imagine ourselves as a great group coming from all around the world, gathering in a great circle in a clearing in the forest. My mind is naturally going to Balmoral in Scotland, where the Queen died, actually, and they've been showing on the film the great forests that exist there. And so perhaps we're in Scotland, perhaps we're in a great clearing in the forest, a clearing which is known in the Druid work as the sacred grove, a place of connection between earth and sky. And I hope it's not too presumptuous of us to sense that perhaps we could be sitting here in this circle and wishing Queen Elizabeth, the late Queen Elizabeth, a safe journey to the other world. And of course, one of the ideas in Druidry, certainly in many spiritual approaches, that when we die, we shed our cares, our identifications. So as a soul travels towards the light, towards the other realms, we as a community of people still alive on earth can help that soul to shed those identities and just to let go and to travel up into the light. And we say in Druid prayers, or if we're asked to conduct a funeral, we ask for the blessings of the fields, the woods, and the sea. We ask for the blessings of the Lord and Lady of nature. We ask for the blessings of the trees, of the birds, of the spirits of the animals, to bless the soul who is traveling now, up into the other realms. We ask a blessing for all souls who are traveling to the other realms. As Rumi says, there is always a lot of coming and going. People leaving this earth, people arriving on this earth at birth. And you might like to, I find sometimes imagining somebody when they've died, imagining them when they're younger. There's something about an image of a person when they're young. I'm seeing Queen Elizabeth now as a young woman, as Princess Elizabeth. There's something about they're shedding their years in some way, returning to the source, with the idea that the soul is actually experiencing a birth, just as the physical body experiences death. The soul, it's the reverse in the other worlds. The soul is being born. Being born in the other world. So we can each take a moment to say our own prayers in whatever way we wish. And then just letting go of our awareness, blessings, 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 and then coming to an awareness of being in the sacred grove with our colleagues and companions around us. You might imagine that you're touching the earth to ground yourself, saying, may all beings be blessed. May all lives be blessed. May the earth be blessed. And then moving our hands to our hearts. It's nice to do this even physically, actually, moving your hand to your heart, to feel that warmth inside, and knowing that warmth inside is experienced by all beings. And we finish by saying, the Druid's oath, we swear by peace and love to stand, heart to heart and hand in hand. Mark, O Spirit, and hear us now, confirming this, our sacred vow. And then gradually we bid farewell to all of those in the circle, gradually allowing our awareness of the sacred grove to fade as we become aware of being seated here, together, connected in cyberspace, but also fully present here and now, opening our eyes. So I'm feeling grounded and present here. Perry Martin, in tears in a good way. Oop. Oh, I like that. The stronger the imagination, the less imaginary the results. That's lovely. Oh, but I keep trying to catch. There's a bog pine that saw the times of Queen Elizabeth Tudor. Bless the light of a way for it. Yes, yes. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm so enjoying looking at. Jewel Cousin says there's a very simple pyramid in Balmoral. Oh, that's great. So thank you all. And many, many blessings to you. And I'm going to carry on writing the label for the display at the Museum of Magic and Witchcraft. And I'm going to imagine now that our chief, Ema, is uncasting our circle. And here we are. So many, many blessings to you. Much love, and see you next Monday. And I'm going to have some tea now, and I'm going to come back and read all the quotes in detail, all the contributions. So many blessings. Bye.